"You're not thinking straight anymore, Dad. You should let me handle everything. Have you ever been told you're losing your mind by the very person you raised just so they could take what's yours? That kind of betrayal cuts deeper than any stranger's insult." I didn't yell or plead, I just smiled and started taking notes. "Before we jump in, I want to know where in the world are you right now, and what time are you listening? Let me know in the comments." The house was too still for a birthday. 65, and the hum of the refrigerator filled the space louder than any laughter. My family sat around the table like guests rehearsing kindness. Forks touched plates, glasses lifted. Nobody said much until my son finally did. This might be the last time we're all together like this. No one moved. His tone wasn't sad, just certain. I raised my glass halfway, unsure whether to drink or ask what he meant, then chose the smaller lost silence. His eyes waited for a reaction I wouldn't give. Dinner dragged on. My daughter-in-law scrolled through her phone. My sister refilled her glass twice. Every laugh came late forced. When the cake appeared, candles leaned unevenly. I blew them out. My grandson clapped once. That was the loudest sound. When everyone left, crumbs and lipstick marks stayed behind. I stood by the table trying to understand his words. Last time together, warning or farewell. He'd once cried when I missed a game, and I'd driven through traffic just to prove I hadn't forgotten. I thought love meant shielding him from loneliness. Somewhere along the way, patience turned into silence. I cleaned up slowly. Beyond the porch, the lake barely moved still, and dark, reflecting nothing. His tone from dinner wouldn't leave my mind. It carried the weight of someone already making plans. I brewed another cup, opened my mail. Bills, flyers, then one envelope from the bank, change of account authorization, my name above his. I called the manager. "He's listed as your financial proxy now," the man said. I didn't sign anything. "You did, sir. We have the document." I hung up. My hand stayed on the receiver longer than it needed to. Part of me wanted to call Nathan, demand an answer. Another part waited, letting the truth show itself first. Later, I drove to town and stopped at the cafe near the ferry dock. Marion waved from behind the counter. She'd been my wife's closest friend. She poured coffee and said family dinner. I nodded. That was enough for her to read the rest. Kids who grow up loved, she said, sometimes forget their parents are people, not statues. Her words landed harder than the caffeine. Driving home, I kept thinking, maybe it wasn't deceit. Maybe he thought he was helping, but his voice from last night replayed in my head. This might be the last time we're all together. I searched my files when got back. The power of attorney form was there, stapled behind tax papers. The signature looked like mine, just cleaner, too careful. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. For years I'd chosen calm over conflict, told myself silence was wisdom. But that night it felt like surrender. The letter stayed on the counter all day, though I felt its weight each time I passed. My drink went cold twice before I finally slipped the envelope into my jacket and drove downtown. Traffic crept along Fifth Avenue, the city blurred by drizzle. Umbrellas tilted just enough for people to avoid one another. Everyone seemed certain of their direction. I wasn't. At the accounting office, the receptionist greeted me out of habit. "Here for your review, Mr. Hayes." Something like that. I handed her the letter. She frowned and fetched a man in a gray suit. "Your son Nathan has been your financial proxy for several weeks," he explained, tone professional, rehearsed. "I am now aware," I said. He believed it would make things easier. Do I look like a man who needs help? He gave the practiced smile of someone trained not to answer. That line clung to me as I walked back out. I kept going until the ferry dock appeared and stepped into Marion's cafe. She poured a cup before I could ask. "You've been thinking too much again," she said. "Can't seem to stop." She wiped the counter, then added, "Your son called last week, asked me to check on you." The spoon stilled in my hand. "Said you were getting forgetful," she went on. "You're not Edward. You're just letting others speak in your place." A low laugh escaped me. "You sound like my wife. She'd tell you the same thing. Silence isn't peace, it's permission." Her words stayed long after she moved away. Ferries drifted in and out, the water steady, deliberate. Back home, I spread papers across the table, contracts, receipts, tax forms. My handwriting stared back, a map of years I thought I controlled. Somewhere in the shuffle, I'd lost that. A message flashed on my phone. "Call me when you have time. I'll reach out when I've sorted my end," I replied. His answer came quick. "Don't make this difficult, Dad. It's for your own good." The phrase hit harder than it should. I'd used it once myself, grounding him for a stolen bike. It had sounded like care then. Now it felt like dismissal. I shut the phone off and kept sorting. Papers turned to hours. Wind pressed against the house. A door tapped somewhere upstairs. Beneath a pile of receipts, I found an old photo Nathan at 12 holding the model bridge we'd built together. His grin, uneven hair, wild. I remembered his words. "We did this, Dad." Somewhere along the line, we became I. Sleep took its time. My thoughts circled one question I couldn't shake. When had my son decided I wasn't fit to live my own life? The sound on the roof offered no answer, only carried the night forward. By Monday, the whispers had started. I didn't need to hear the words. The pause in conversation at the grocery store said enough. A neighbor smiled too wide. "Heard Nathan's handling things for you now. Must be nice not worrying about paperwork." I nodded. Something like that. She touched my arm. "You deserve to rest, Edward. You've worked hard enough." That word rest followed me to the car. I didn't want rest. I wanted respect. But that doesn't fit neatly into talk about apples and milk. On the drive home, static replaced music. The mailbox flag was still up, holding a folded newspaper. Page 2, Nathan Hayes, The Next Generation of Integrity and Leadership. My name appeared once a footnote. I called his office. "Mr. Hayes is in a meeting," the secretary said. I hung up. Papers filled the dining table, contracts, receipts, registration forms. My handwriting shifted through the years, but always kept its flick at the end. On one document it was missing. Too neat. Too careful. Marion came by that evening, newspaper in hand, the same article circled. "He's clever," she said. "Talks like a politician, dresses like one. You almost sound impressed." I'm not. Confidence like that comes from fear of losing control. We sat together, words scarce. She glanced at the scattered papers. "You're planning something. I'm trying to understand what's already been done. He's your son. That's why it hurts." At the door, she added, "Don't let him turn you into a ghost in your own story." When she left, her words stayed. A ghost, that's exactly what it felt like, watching my name shrink while the world carried on as if I'd already stepped aside. Rain tapped the roof. I lined up 3 sheets, comparing signatures. The ink looked traced. A knock interrupted me. The mailman handed over a padded envelope. A note inside from an old client. "Your son reached out about transferring contracts. Said you'd retired. Wanted confirmation. Retired." Another word for erased. I wrote back quickly, "I have not retired. Do not sign anything until you hear from me directly." As the ink dried, something steadied. Not anger, just weight finding its center. Around me, the shelves held decades of work, now claimed by someone else's ambition. My phone buzzed. "We need to talk soon. You're making this harder than it has to be." I turned it face down and kept sorting marking dates and gaps. Each circle of pencil felt like a small breath after drowning too long. Tomorrow I'd call Benson the lawyer. I stayed there watching condensation fade from the glass, each circle vanishing like it had somewhere else to be. Nathan showed up that Saturday without warning. I was in the garage sorting old blueprints when his car door slammed. His tone carried that practiced confidence I'd heard in his meetings. "Dad, we need to clear the air." He stepped in folder in hand cologne, cutting through the scent of oil and sawdust. "You could have called," I said. "We don't need formalities. This is important." He set the folder on the bench. "An updated trust. You keep the house. The rest just gets streamlined. Standard procedure." His words flowed smooth, rehearsed. I didn't open the folder. "Did you sign my name on the company forms?" He blinked. "What?" "The registration that says I've retired. Dad, I handled that for efficiency. You hate paperwork. That's not an answer." He exhaled through his nose. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. Everyone knows you've slowed down." There it was. I kept my tone level. Slowing down isn't stepping aside. He glanced at the half-finished table by the wall. "You can't keep every project as proof you still matter. I'm protecting what you built, and you protect it by erasing me." His face shifted, guilt flickering before he steadied himself. "You're overreacting. I found the forms. You forged my signature. He didn't deny it." The silence between us grew heavy. "Dad, he said you taught me to think ahead." I studied him, the boy who once asked how bridges stayed up. Because every piece carries weight, I'd told him then. Now he stood trying to lift himself by cutting one loose. He turned for the door. "I'll come back when you've calmed down." "I'm not angry," I said, "just awake." He paused, adjusting his sleeve. "Call me when you're ready to be reasonable." When his car pulled away, I sat on the stool, staring at the folder he'd left. My hands trembled not from age, but restraint. I opened it carefully. Each line reeked of control, dressed as care. By evening, my table was buried in papers. I called Benson and left a message. "Need to review estate documents. Urgent." Then I poured water and waited. When the phone rang, Benson's voice carried its steady calm. "Bring what you have Monday. You still hold authority unless you signed it away." "I haven't. Not willingly." "Then we'll fix it." After hanging up, I stood near the glass watching branches shift in the wind. The house creaked around me, steady but tense. The pause before judgment. A message arrived from my sister. "Nathan says you're being paranoid." "Want me to come by?" I turned the phone face down. Pity was worse than anger. Folding the documents into a manila envelope, I caught a glimpse of Nathan's graduation photo on the shelf. His smile then, open and unguarded. I remembered bragging to anyone who'd listen. Pride had once felt like love. The doorbell rang. A courier handed over another envelope, Nathan's firm logo stamped clean across it. Successful transfer of client portfolios under new management. My name appeared in small print at the bottom, founderette. I refolded the paper, set it on the hearth, left it unburned evidence waiting for daylight. I made a sandwich, washed the plate, wiped the counter twice, though it was spotless. Routine steadied me. Before bed, I set Benson's envelope by the door keys beside it and sat listening to the heater's hum. Benson's office sat between a tailor and a pharmacy that smelled faintly of menthol. The receptionist waved me toward the same chair I'd used for years. He appeared with his glasses halfway down his nose. "Edward, been a while." "Too long," I said. "But not too late, I hope." He chuckled, then saw the stack of papers. The smile faded. I spread them out, letters, contracts, statements. He turned each page with deliberate care. "You didn't sign this version," he said at last. "Date's wrong, witness line doesn't match. So forged. In plain terms, yes. We'll file a revocation, send notices to every institution that used it. I can handle that. It'll make waves. Your son won't take it kindly." "I know." He studied me. "You're calm, just tired," I said. Not the same thing. He nodded, handed me new forms. Sign here, here, and here. This freezes any further changes under his name. My pen moved steadily. For years, my signature opened doors. Now it built a wall. When we finished, he said, "Keep your phone on. If his lawyer calls, say nothing and forward everything to me." Walking out, I felt the chill cut through not relief, but steadiness. On the way home, I stopped at Marion's cafe. She noticed the papers and raised an eyebrow. "Looks serious." "It is." She poured coffee, sat across from me. "What's next?" "Benson's on it. We'll see how deep it runs." "You look settled," she said, like someone who's finally stopped apologizing. Maybe I have. Good. Peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from decisions. I stirred my cup. Doesn't feel peaceful yet. "It will," she said. A gust pushed the door open. She closed it, and our reflections met briefly in the glass. Two people still haunted, still standing. That evening the phone rang. Nathan, his tone clipped. "Dad, what are you doing with Benson protecting what's mine? You're overreacting. Then it shouldn't bother you. You're making this public. You'll embarrass us both." "Embarrassment doesn't scare me," he exhaled sharply. "You're inviting lawyers, auditors. This could take months." "I've got time." The line went dead. No anger, followed just a dull certainty. Later I filled notebooks with dates and notes, the numbers blurring, but my hand steady. Marion called near midnight. "Couldn't sleep," she said. "Me neither. Promise me something. When this ends, don't let it define you." "I'll try." "Try harder," she said, and hung up. The day stretched steady. I sorted tools, oiled hinges, trimmed the hedge, creeping into the walkway. Work steadied the mind. Each small task gave thought somewhere to land. A phone alert blinked. Bank inquiry denied, security freeze active. Benson had moved fast. No drama, just confirmation that something was finally back in my hands. Lunch was half a sandwich eaten without noticing. The radio mumbled through a talk show on retirement. I turned it off before the advice began. Marion called. Her tone carried that cautious warmth people use when comfort might sting. "Heard you mailed the papers." "I did." "Good. You've earned some peace." "Peace needs maintenance," I said. She laughed. "You sound like a man fixing his own sink." We talked about nothing much, the weather, her bitter coffee blend. Before hanging up, she added, "If you need company, stop by. We're closing early." I thanked her but stayed home. Sometimes solitude cleans more than conversation. Evening drew itself out. I read the local paper by the kitchen light. Near the back, a short piece mentioned a dispute among stakeholders in my old firm. Nathan's phrasing lingered even there. A text flashed, "Mr. Hayes, this is Lisa from Harbor Investments. We received a freeze notice. Was that intentional? Yes. All actions verified by my attorney. No apology. Just clarity. It fit." Then another message. "They won't stop just because you did. Watch who contacts you." Anonymous, sloppy punctuation. Maybe a warning, maybe bait. I printed it and filed it with the rest. Dinner was plain rice, vegetables, cold chicken. The rhythm of eating steadied me more than the food. By 9, only the desk lamp burned. I reopened the folder, reading pages I knew by heart. Repetition wasn't for discovery anymore, just to keep fear busy. The phone rang again, same number twice. I answered. "Mr. Hayes, this is Claire from City Finance. Your son requested authorization for several accounts. We just need verbal consent." "No. Do nothing until my attorney calls. He said you'd expect us. Well, I don't. Note that." I hung up and sat still, the ache behind my ribs, familiar now. Not dread, just proof it wasn't finished. Later I stepped onto the porch. Damp earth rose from yesterday's rain. The lake lay still, except for a stray ripple now and then. A dog barked somewhere, then stopped. Even that felt like company. Back at the table, I wrote in my notebook, "Calls increasing. Maintain composure. Document everything." The handwriting steadier than last week. When fatigue came, I brewed tea. Steam rose slowly. I thought of Nathan, not the man with lawyers, but the builder, chasing control the way I once had. Maybe we weren't opposites, just mirror errors facing each other across time. The thought dulled the edge of anger. A knock came early, firm, deliberate. I'd barely poured coffee when it landed again. Through the glass stood a man in a dark jacket with a clipboard. I opened the door halfway. "Mr. Hayes?" "Yes, I'm here on behalf of the court. You've been served." He handed me a thick envelope and left without another word. It weighed more than it should. The scent of the paper pulled me back to my drafting days when contracts meant opportunity instead of accusation. I sat at the table, slid it open with a butter knife. Petition for guardianship. Nathan Hayes versus Edward Hayes. My name on both sides of a war I hadn't declared. By the third page, disbelief had worn itself thin. He'd gone to court claiming I was unfit to manage my affairs, memory lapses, erratic behavior, emotional instability. Attached statements from neighbors, colleagues, even my sister, polite betrayals written in neat paragraphs. The phone rang. I didn't move. My eyes rested on the line that called me respondent under evaluation. I almost laughed, but the sound didn't form. Marion called later. "You sound strange." "I just got served." "By Nathan, yes." She exhaled hard. "I'm coming over, don't I?" said. "There's nothing to fix." "Edward, let me read." I hung up before she could answer. Pressing my hands flat on the table stilled the tremor, not the ache. By midday, I walked the lake path. Pine carried sharp in the breeze. Families passed people who still believed the world made sense. I used to. Halfway around, Benson texted, "Guardianship notice received. Don't panic. Meeting tomorrow." The word panic stung more than the filing. I wasn't panicking. I'd gone numb. At home, a voicemail waited. Nathan's tone was soft, careful. "Dad, I didn't want it to come to this. You're making choices that could ruin everything you built. I'm only protecting you. The court will understand." A pause. "I still love you. Please don't make this uglier than it has to be." The message ended with a click that rang louder than his words. Evening found me at the table again, same envelope, same chair. I marked the sections with yellow tabs. The words bit deep because they were well written. Persuasion had always been his craft. When Marion arrived, she didn't knock, just set a paper bag down. "Soup. You probably haven't eaten." She ladled it, sat across from me. The broth burned my tongue, but I finished it. "What will you do?" she asked. "Let Benson file a response." "Then I don't know." "You do. You're just tired of fighting your own blood." He used my sister's statement. Said I've been forgetful. Everyone forgets things. I forgot her birthday. That's not exile. Her hand brushed my sleeve. "You told me once construction is correction, fixing what doesn't fit. Maybe this is the same. You're rebuilding the story. You make it sound simple. It isn't, but you've done harder things." After she left, I washed the bowl and folded the notice back into its envelope. My body moved through its list: lock doors, turn off lights, set things right. Benson met me at the courthouse steps, folder under his arm. He looked rested. I hadn't slept. "They filed quick," he said. "Means they're scared you'll beat them to it." "I don't want to fight," I told him. "Just my life back." Same thing sometimes. The hallway smelled faintly of paper and floor wax. We checked in, waited on a bench that creaked each time I shifted. Benson kept explaining procedure, but his words blurred into the hum of others waiting their turn. When they called my name, I stood too fast, knee stiff. Nathan was already there with his lawyer, slick, confident. He didn't glance my way. The judge entered, calm, efficient. Everything rolled forward like machinery. Benson began submitting our exhibits' forged signatures, the recording of Nathan's assistant admitting she'd helped push documents through. Nathan's jaw tightened, the only sign he heard. His lawyer spoke next, shaping me into a man needing protection, a father lost in confusion, missing calls, forgetting payments. Each line stacked neatly, forming a cage of concern. Benson leaned close. Let it play out. So I waited. When the judge asked if I wanted to speak, the words came before I could plan them. Your Honor, I built a company from nothing. I can still read a ledger drive cook, manage my own life. The only confusion here is how my son decided he knows my mind better than I do. A few people murmured. Nathan's lawyer objected, but the judge waved him down. I don't need protection, I said. I need my name back. When I sat, Benson's pen moved across his pad. Nathan finally looked over. No anger, just calculation. After recess, the judge postponed ruling pending review. That word wait landed heavy. Benson lit a cigarette he didn't smoke. You did fine, he said. I wasn't performing. I know. That's why it worked. We stood on the steps while clouds gathered but never broke. At the corner, Marion waited in her car thermos balanced on the dashboard. You hungry? She asked. Not really. Good. I brought sandwiches anyway. We ate in the parked car, watching people stream past. When I mentioned the forged documents, she shook her head. You'd think family came with some kind of warranty. Apparently it expires. She laughed dry and short. You're handling this better than most. Handling's just breathing without collapsing. That counts. She handed me a napkin. Traffic crawled near the bridge on the way home. Nathan's voicemail replayed in my head. I still love you. Please don't make this uglier than it has to be. He always used love like a soft threat. Back home, I set the court papers on the table. So many seals and stamps to prove a man still owned himself. Later, Benson called. Nathan's assistant sent her written statement. It's enough. The judge won't ignore it. Does she know she's finished? Probably. People mistake loyalty for protection until it costs them. I thanked him, wrote a few notes on the yellow pad. Evidence confirms intent. Wait. Stay steady. Underlined the last two. Twice. An unknown number called. I ignored it. The voicemail played later. You should have stayed quiet. No name. The tone sounded tired, not threatening, like someone warning me too late. Dinner stayed untouched. I walked the lake path counting steps like measurements on old blueprints. It kept thought in line. Across the water, the lights from Nathan's office shimmered. I'd chosen that spot years ago, close to home, close to him. When I returned, Benson's voice waited on the machine. Tomorrow changes things. Try to rest. The phone buzzed on the nightstand. I let it ring, then checked the message, a reminder from the courthouse. Deleted it. I didn't need what was already fixed in my head. I called Benson around 8. They're asking for more time, he said. To stall, most likely. The assistant's statement is our anchor. Then we wait. Patience is strategy here, not surrender. I've had practice. After we hung up, I sat at the table. The phone lay beside the mug. The stillness wasn't heavy anymore. It felt usable, something to move through. By mid-morning, Marion arrived without calling, a paper bag in hand, and that firm look of hers. You're eating today, she said, unpacking soup and bread. You don't have to. Too late. She pushed the bowl toward me. You look like someone living on caffeine and air. You'd be right. She folded her hands, watching. He's unraveling, you know. One of his clients pulled a contract. I didn't know. Pride makes fast news. She sipped from her thermos. What if he shows up again? I'll listen, I said. Doesn't mean I'll agree. The mail came near noon. Among bills was an unmarked envelope. Inside, a printed email chain between Nathan and a partner. If we can establish incompetence before the audit assets transition cleanly. No signature, but the phrasing was his. I didn't wonder who sent it. Debts find their own path home. I phoned Benson. He let out a long breath. That's the nail. We'll verify authenticity. Wouldn't be the first forgery, I said. He chuckled, stopped himself. Bad joke. I'll file a supplement tonight. Afterward, I stepped into the yard. My hands found the old rake clearing leaves one patch at a time. Work like that doesn't fix a thing, but it steadies the body. By dusk, the yard was clean enough. The phone blinked again, a voicemail from Nathan. "Dad, I saw what Benson filed. You're really doing this. You're forcing me to defend myself. You're not thinking straight. I never wanted this. You're making me the enemy." I let the recording end pulse steady. No anger, just a clear outline where confusion used to be. Dinner was eggs and toast. I ate while sorting papers, making sure every page sat in the right place. Control once lost feels like breath when it returns. The phone rang again, Benson. "Next hearing's Friday. If that email holds, it's over." Over's a big word. Then, call it close enough. The courthouse carried that blend of old carpet and polished wood, the faint trace of a long-forgotten spill. I arrived early and sat in the hallway. Benson came soon after, tie slightly crooked a sign he'd been working since dawn. He handed me the verified email. "Authenticated," he said. "Digital trace matches your son's firm." So that's it. That's it for truth. What the court does with it? Different story. When they called our case, we went in. Nathan sat straight chin, lifted his lawyer, murmuring at his ear. I didn't look away. There's a calm that comes when fear runs out. The judge entered. Benson spoke like a builder, laying bricks, steady, exact. The forged signature false, transfers the assistant's statement, the email they lined up clean, leaving no room for doubt. Nathan's lawyer followed, turning deceit into concern, misunderstood. He called my son a man acting under strain, worried for his father's safety. I almost laughed, but didn't. The judge asked Nathan if he'd sent the email. His eyes flicked toward his lawyer. "I don't recall. Benson passed him a printout. Then someone using your account sent it at 10:42 p.m. Does that help your memory?" Nathan's jaw set. It must have been my assistant, the one who resigned yesterday after signing a sworn statement. The room held still. The judge leaned back, sounding weary. "Mr. Hayes, this isn't about inheritance. It's about integrity. I'll review the record, but so far you've overstepped the law. No gavel, no final note. Just that sentence hanging there, enough by itself." When it ended, Nathan gathered his papers and walked past without a glance. His lawyer trailed behind. Benson exhaled. "You held your ground. Barely. Barely still counts." He left for another case. I stayed on the bench watching people pass different names, same urgency. Life kept moving. Maybe that's what steadies you, realizing the world won't stop for anyone. Outside, the sky hung low. I started toward the lot, tired in a way that sat deeper than bone. Marion waited near the corner window down. "Well, not finished, but close." She nodded. "Need a ride? I'll walk. Then take this." She handed me a paper bag. "Blueberry muffin. Sugar helps with shock." You've thought of everything. That's because you never do. The walk home stretched longer than usual. My thoughts looped around one question. How does love turn tactical? Somewhere between protecting him and letting him go, I'd lost track of where care ended. The machine blinked when I came in. Nathan's voice filled the room. "Dad?" I didn't lie. I was trying to make things easier. "You don't know how hard this has been." A pause. "If you keep this up, you'll regret it." Then silence. I turned it off and ate half the muffin. Too sweet, but I finished. Sometimes sweetness is medicine. The afternoon passed through small motions, sorting mail, watering the plant, tightening a loose chair screw. The body remembers routine even when thought runs out. Benson called at 5. Judge issued a preliminary order. Your autonomy reinstated, petition dismissed. It's over, Edward. I let out a slow breath. Thank you. You did this. I only wrote it down. After the call, I stood at the sink, faint reflection on the glass. My face looked older maybe because it could finally stop pretending. Marion stopped by later. She didn't ask. She set a thermos on the counter. You'd forget dinner. I was thinking toast. Toast isn't dinner. It is if you're too tired to argue. She smiled, poured tea, and sat across from me. We didn't fill the space with words. The pause between us carried relief, not weight. The old clock struck 6, steady, indifferent, not an ending, just permission to let the day rest. I picked up the phone, thought of calling Nathan, then set it down again. There'd be time later or not. For now, there was only this house, this chair, this breath that no longer hurt. The kettle whistled. I poured a cup, warmth spreading where words had stopped. Days moved like tidewater. No calls, no visitors, just aftermath. I'd expected calm, but it carried weight. Each ring made me brace for his voice. Each silence left me wondering if I'd already turned into someone he no longer reached for. Benson had warned me. Winning doesn't feel clean. He was right. By midweek, a thick envelope arrived from his firm. Effective immediately, Hayes Group Holdings ceases operation under the Hayes family name. No signature, no apology. Just language so dry it burned. I read it twice, folded it, set it aside. It wasn't the name that stung, it was the emptiness where connection used to live. Marion came with groceries. "You've lost weight again," she said, unloading them. "You living on tea and guilt? Mostly tea." She placed a carton of milk on the shelf, moving as if she'd done it forever. Heard from him. "No, you will." They circle back when the noise dies down, and if he doesn't, then that's the answer. She took a glass, filled it, and leaned against the counter. "You didn't start this, Edward, but you finished it. That matters." I nodded. When she left, I wiped the table-sorted mail, rearranged the same pile of papers. Small motions that lent shape to empty hours. Later, I opened an old box of photos. Company picnics. Nathan Young holding his first toolkit, his mother behind us, smiling. One picture caught me a day by the lake, all of us soaked from waiting too far, laughing like the world owed us nothing. I slipped that one into my wallet. Not from sentiment, but as proof good years had existed too. The next call came the following day. His number. It rang twice before I answered. "Dad, I'm here." "I didn't think you'd pick up." I almost didn't. He exhaled, half pride, half regret. "They're shutting the firm down. Clients are gone." "I know. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You meant to win," I said. The rest followed. He didn't argue. Street noise buzzed faintly through the line. "I wanted to prove I could do what you did," he said. "Didn't see what I was tearing down until it was too late. You didn't have to prove anything. You already had my respect. You just wanted ownership." Silence stretched until he finally murmured, "I'll make it right." "There's no making it right. Only living with it. I'll call when I figure things out. Do what you need to." The line went dead. I stayed there, phone still warm in my hand. The room felt stiller than it had in weeks. Wind brushed against the screen's trees, bending just enough to survive the pressure. There's comfort in that kind of yielding. In the notebook I wrote, "He called." Not for forgiveness, just proof I still exist. The ink bled slightly, unsure whether to stay or fade. The phone rang around 10. Benson's number. The judge finalized everything he said. All charges dismissed, guardianship, terminated assets reinstated. It's closed. I waited for satisfaction, but none came. Relief doesn't rise like joy. It settles slow and heavy like dust after work. "Thank you," I said. "You did the hard part," he replied. "You stayed sane." When the call ended, I emptied the drawer that held the case files, court forms, statements, emails. I kept only the final ruling and fed the rest to the shredder. The soft grind of paper turning to strips felt like proper closure. Marion stopped by with lunch. She didn't ask questions. She already knew. She set 2 sandwiches down. So she said, "What now?" "Not sure. There's a lot of space ahead. Good kind of space," she said. You ever think of teaching again? You're good at explaining things. That was years ago. Then it's time again. I watched her move around the kitchen like she'd never left. You always sound like you're giving assignments. Maybe I am. You're not done yet. You just turned a page. I laughed under my breath. Motivational posters talk cheaper than you. Mine don't sell, she said, grinning. After she left, I took her advice literally. The garage still smelled faintly of sawdust. I opened the bench, found a block of oak from an old table, and began sanding. The grain caught the light uneven, but alive. Work orders thought. By evening, a small chair had begun to take shape, plain sturdy enough. My phone buzzed once. A text from Nathan. Heard the ruling. Hope you're okay. I typed back, I am. Hope you find your footing. Then left it at that. Dinner was eggs and toast again. The rhythm of ordinary life returned, slow, deliberate. The house felt lighter, maybe because it finally held only my voice. After cleaning up, I stepped onto the porch. The night carried a hint of spring. Across the lake, lights shimmered softly, each one keeping its distance. For once, I didn't wonder who lived behind them. The world could keep its secrets. I sat on the steps, palms resting on the wood. Stillness had shape now. Every sound fit where it belonged, the faint hum of a car, the splash of something breaking the surface. A memory surfaced Nathan as a boy, building a toy bridge across the sandbox, aligning each plank until they held. When it collapsed, he looked up and said, "Guess it needed better support." Maybe we both did. The workshop carried the scent of sawdust again. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed it until stepping in, mug beside me, sandpaper rasping against oak. The chair was nearly done, plain steady, built to last. I wasn't making it for beauty anymore, just proof I still could. Around midday, Benson called. His tone carried that dry ease I'd grown used to. "The judgment came through," he said. "Full dismissal. Case closed. Your name's clean." "Guess that's it," I said. "It is. You're free to move on." Free! Such a small word for something that took months to earn. I hung up and stood for a while, letting the stillness settle. Then I went back to sanding long, even strokes until the grain turned smooth under my hands. Each scrape pared away the noise that had filled the last year. The doorbell rang just as I brushed dust from the seat. Nathan stood there, hands in pockets, face drawn tight. "Hi, Dad." I didn't speak. He filled the pause himself. I wanted to say something. I know it won't change much, but it needs saying. Then say it. I was wrong. About everything. The court, the signatures. I told myself I was protecting what you built, but I think I just wanted to own it, maybe even own you. I didn't see it until I lost it. You hurt a lot of people, Nathan, not just me. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Then what? Just to see you. To know you're all right. He looked smaller than before, less certain, less rehearsed. "I'm all right," I said. "Now go build something of your own. Something that doesn't need my name on it." He nodded. "I will." Before leaving, he glanced toward the chair behind me. "You still build things the same way. Some habits last." He managed a short laugh, then walked down the path. The sound of the car faded into distance. The house felt different, not lighter, just settled. I sat at the table studying the chair. It caught a faint shimmer from the light. It would hold. I carried it to the porch, set it down, and sat. The lake was calm mist gathering near the far bank. The chair didn't creak. It simply held. Marion arrived carrying a basket under a towel. "You always build something when you're trying to make peace," she said. "It works. Does it well enough to sit on?" She smiled and sat beside me, pulling out 2 jars of lemonade. "You look different. Older." "No." Finished. The words settled softly. We drank, listening to small sounds that didn't need filling. "What will you do now?" she asked. "Maybe travel. Haven't seen the ocean in years. You should. Water clears things. Maybe I've cleared enough. Then just watch it move, she said. We stayed until the light dimmed the air cooling around us, the smell of pine mixed with something warm from her basket bread, maybe. When she left, I stayed on the porch. The chair felt solid beneath me, grounding. I thought of all the versions of myself across the past year, the one who stayed silent, the one who fought, the one who almost gave up. They didn't feel separate anymore, just layered, fitting together into something whole. The phone buzzed once, a text from Nathan. Thank you for opening the door. I didn't answer. Some things end better unsaid. The weeks passed without ceremony. Papers filed accounts, restored neighbors who once whispered now greeting with polite care. Most days I rose early and walked the lake trail. The ground softened new grass pushing through. Sometimes I carried the small chair to the dock and sat watching the water shift against the boards. The wood stayed firm, the joints tight, proof that something made with patience could still hold. Benson called to close the file. Everything's archived, he said. You're clear for good, I thanked him. He asked if I wanted to claim damages. You'd win easily. I've had enough of winning, I told him. You sure some debts don't need collecting? He gave a dry laugh that faded into a sigh. Then it's done. When the call ended, I poured another cup and went back to the porch. Life carried on as if nothing had shifted, birds nesting in the eaves, a dog barking down the street, a truck rumbling by. After months of chaos, the ordinary sounded almost melodic. A letter arrived from Nathan, no envelope markings his handwriting, plain. I'm moving west, starting over. I'll send an address when I have one. I know I can't undo what I did. I hope one day you'll see me as more than the man who failed you. No signature, just his name typed at the bottom. I folded it once and tucked it in the drawer beside my tools. Forgiveness would come on its own time, or not at all. For once, I didn't need to rush it. In the evenings, Marion stopped by. We'd sit on the porch with tea or lemonade talking about her garden, the church fundraiser, a neighbor's crooked mailbox. She never mentioned Nathan and I was grateful. She understood the difference between talk and comfort. One afternoon, she brought mail from her place. Something from the county, she said, handing me a thin envelope. An invitation to a community lecture series, one session on mentoring young tradesmen. You should do it. Stand up and talk for an hour. Stand up and remind people why skill still matters. I told her I'd think about it, and that night I filled out the form and mailed it back. The hall wasn't large folding chairs, a coffee urn on a table, the hum of conversation before it began. I spoke about wood patience and the difference between building to impress and building to last. No one took notes, but they listened. Afterward, a young man approached. My dad was a carpenter, he said. He never talked about his mistakes. I wish he had. I nodded, unsure what to answer. On the drive home, his words stayed with me. Maybe aging is just realizing that every scar is a lesson someone else might need. That night, I sat at the bench. The chair was done. The saws hung neatly on the wall, yet my hand reached for a block of oak. The knife found rhythm again, carving without a plan. Shape didn't matter. Motion did. Marion called. How'd the talk go? Better than I thought. I knew it would. You don't have to teach to be heard, Edward. You just have to speak. I think I finally learned that. Good. Keep doing it. On weekends, I helped at the workshop, showing younger men how to plane a board or fit dowels straight. They rarely spoke, which suited me. Teaching isn't speeches, it's patience. Eli, one of the younger ones, stayed late sanding a table leg long after the rest had gone. It still wobbles, he said. Then it's teaching you something, I told him. Everything unstable has a reason. You just haven't found it yet. He frowned, still sanding. Before leaving, he asked, You think it ever stops bothering you, the not perfect part you learn to live beside it? I said. After he left, I locked up and walked home. The sky was low and gray weather that keeps you thinking instead of acting. The porch light flickered on as I reached the steps. The house smelled faintly of sawdust and detergent, my kind of comfort now. Marion arrived with a small casserole, the kind she makes when words would only get in the way.
"You'll eat this over 2 days," she said, handing it over. "I might share, not if it's good." We ate in the kitchen. She asked about the class, about Eli, about Nathan. "Not since the letter," I said. She stirred her tea. Maybe that's his way of leaving room. For what? For whatever comes next. People who hurt each other need silence before they can speak again. Her words sat between us like a third chair. We didn't fill the space. Some silences do more work than conversation. After dinner, we washed the dishes together. She dried each plate before setting it down. The rhythm felt easy, ordinary. At the door, she paused. "You're lighter now. Not happy, just steady. I can live with steady." "Good," she said. "It suits you." When the door closed, I turned off the lights and walked through the rooms. Everything had a place again. Tools in drawers, counters, clear papers gone. I hadn't realized how much disorder had lingered until it wasn't there anymore. The phone rang once, breaking the stillness. "Unknown number, but I knew," Dad Nathan said. His tone was even. "I'm in Oregon now. Work slower but steady. Smaller firm, less noise. I'm glad. I just wanted you to know I'm okay. And I'm sorry. I'm not asking for anything. I know." We stayed on the line a while, neither rushing. When he said goodbye, it sounded like breathing out final only for the day. I sat with a cup of tea watching a thin line of light ripple across the lake. The world had shrunk to its right size again. No courtrooms, no noise, just stillness that carried weight instead of worry. In the workshop, the unfinished table waited. I switched on the small lamp and ran my hand along the grain. The surface wasn't even, but the wood was good. It would hold once joined right. I fitted the pieces slowly, the way my father once showed me. Time slipped unnoticed. When I stepped back, the table stood solid, imperfect, but sound. I left the tools where they were and went out to the porch. The night smelled of rain frogs starting up across the lake. I leaned against the railing and let the sound fill the space around me. There was no triumph left in me, no sorrow either, just balance, the quiet kind that doesn't ask to be named. My life hadn't been repaired, it had been reassembled one small piece at a time. The porch light flickered once before holding. I washed the dust from my hands and poured a glass of water. The first sip was cold clear. Upstairs I cracked the window for a breeze. The bed felt light, the sheets clean. I lay down, thinking of Eli's question, Nathan's voice, Marion's steady insistence that peace isn't forgetting, it's finally stopping the fight with what's already done. Somewhere below the house shifted wood, settling against wood, gentle and familiar. I closed my eyes, not chasing meaning, not marking an end, just resting in the plain fact of being here, breathing and knowing that for once it was enough.